she stood with another woman. A story that defies prejudice. What happens when one of the world's most powerful women joins forces with a humble maid to confront prejudice? Beyoncé, alongside Maria, not only exposed the arrogance and disdain of salesmen at a luxury dealership, but also forced us to ask, why do we still judge people by their appearance or social standing? This story goes beyond an act of generosity. It's a mirror held up to our society. How often do we, even unknowingly, reinforce stereotypes or stay silent in the face of injustice? The alliance between Beyoncé and Maria reminds us that empathy and dignity must be universal. And you, have you ever stopped to think about how your actions impact the lives of others?
Maria woke up before sunrise, as she always did. Her hands, calloused from years of hard work, carefully clutched a yellowed envelope holding her life's savings. Today was special, a day she had planned for years. That envelope wasn't just money. It was the culmination of dreams, sacrifices, and hope. Innocence, inner child, sparkled in her eyes as she imagined the car she'd buy. Not just any car, but one that was safe and reliable for her family. She chose a luxury dealership downtown, not out of vanity, but because she wanted quality. Maria wore her best outfit, a simple yet neatly pressed dress and shoes polished to a shine despite their worn edges. They were her only jewelry. As she entered the dealership, the contrast between its opulent world and her modest appearance was stark. Gleaming glass, cars shimmering under fluorescent lights, and salesmen in tailored suits and designer watches. Maria's stomach tightened, but she took a deep breath and approached the counter. Carlos, one of the salesmen, eyed her from head to toe, his gaze lingering on her humble shoes and plain dress. A fake smile curled his lips. "Can I help you? Or are you lost?" he asked, sarcasm dripping from his voice. Maria steadied herself. "I'm interested in buying a car. I'd like to see some models, please." Carlos chuckled as if she'd told a joke. "We only sell real cars here, not toy ones," he said loudly enough for others to hear. Laughter echoed through the showroom. Maria's face burned with shame. She tried to explain she had the means to buy, but Carlos cut her off with a wave. "Look, I don't have time for games. If you're not here to buy, don't waste my time." More snickers followed from the other salesman. A lump formed in Maria's throat, tears threatening to spill. Without another word, she turned and left, the weight of their judgmental stares on her back. As she exited, she heard a final jab. "Thought she could afford a car here? Must be dreaming." Maria walked to the bus stop, holding back tears until she reached home. That day, she vowed never to return. What she didn't know was that this humiliation would ignite a chain of events altering not just her life, but everyone involved, forever. Night fell over Beyoncé's mansion like a silent cloak. Maria, still carrying the weight of humiliation, tidied the room with slow, almost mechanical movements. Her hands, accustomed to polishing furniture and organizing spaces, trembled slightly. Shame and anger danced in her chest, but she kept her face impassive, as she always had. Beyoncé, seated on the sofa with a notebook in her lap, watched Maria with attentive eyes. The singer, known for her empathy, had a radar for others' emotions. She noticed the sadness Maria tried to hide, like a child crying silently to avoid disturbing the adults. "Maria, come here," Beyoncé called softly, breaking the silence. Maria approached, avoiding eye contact. "Are you okay? You seem different today." Maria hesitated. Her innocence wanted to shield Beyoncé from the pain, but her authenticity screamed for justice. Finally, she relented. "I went to the dealership today. I wanted to buy a car, but they treated me badly, laughed at me, said I didn't belong there." Beyoncé froze for a moment. Her eyes, usually full of light, darkened like a storm brewing on the horizon. Rage and indignation battled inside her, but her compassion spoke louder. She stood and embraced Maria, like a mother comforting an injured child. "No one deserves to be treated like that, Maria. No one." Beyoncé's voice was firm, but laced with a dignity that echoed through the room. Maria, finally feeling seen, let her tears fall. "I just wanted a safe car for me and my family. Why did they treat me like I wasn't worthy?" Beyoncé squeezed her hands, sensing the strength Maria carried even in her fragility. "Because they're blind, Maria. Blind with pride and vanity. But I'll make sure they see. I'll make sure they understand." In that moment, Beyoncé wasn't just a global superstar. She was a woman fueled by justice. She knew her fame and influence could be used for something greater than concerts or awards. They could restore the dignity of someone crushed by others' contempt. "Tomorrow, you and I are going back to that dealership. But this time, it'll be different." Beyoncé smiled, and in her eyes blazed a flame Maria had never seen before. The flame of revolution, of courage to confront the world and transform it. Maria felt warmth surge through her body. For the first time since the incident, she didn't feel small. She felt powerful, as if Beyoncé had lit a fire within her. Meanwhile, at the dealership, Carlos and his colleagues remained immersed in their world of lust and envy, oblivious that a storm named Beyoncé was about to descend upon them. Beyoncé, known for her strategic intelligence, practical wisdom, and her ability to turn challenges into opportunities, decided not to resort to the obvious, denouncing the dealership on social media or creating a public scandal. She wanted something that struck at the heart of the problem, exposing the pride and vanity of the salesman, forcing them to choke on their own contempt. Her plan was a perfect trap, fueled by the justice and empathy that had always guided her actions. By inviting Maria to her office, Beyoncé revealed not just a plan but a mission. "We're going back to that dealership, but this time, I'll be with you," she said, igniting a spark of courage in Maria. The determination in Beyoncé's eyes was contagious, a strength Maria had never perceived so clearly. The maid, initially hesitant, felt her authenticity resurge. "I'm with you," she replied, swallowing her fear. Beyoncé swapped her iconic outfits for simple clothes, basic jeans, a plain blouse, and worn sneakers. Humility was her new disguise, while sunglasses and a hat hid not only her face but also her fame. A brutal contrast to the lust of the dealership, where gleaming cars and expensive suits were symbols of gluttony, insatiable desire for status. Maria dressed as she had the day before, clinging to the innocence of someone who still believed in justice. Before leaving, Beyoncé squeezed Maria's hand and whispered, "No matter what happens, I'm with you." It was more than a promise. It was a pact against the humiliation of those who underestimated Maria and the moral sloth, apathy in the face of wrongdoing. As they entered the car, Beyoncé carried not just a plan but the resilience of someone who'd fought 1,000 battles, while Maria held the curiosity and hope of someone finally seeing herself capable of changing her destiny. The morning sun shone over the city, but inside Maria's heart, a silent storm brewed. She and Beyoncé walked toward the dealership, two seemingly ordinary women carrying a powerful mission. Beyoncé, disguised in simple clothes and sunglasses, embodied humility, inner child element, while Maria, by her side, represented resilience, inner child element, a soul bent but unbroken. As they entered the dealership, the air reeked of lust, deadly sin, the scent of new leather, cars gleaming under fluorescent lights, and opulence screaming from every detail. The salesmen, in immaculate suits, were guardians of a temple of vanity, deadly sin. Carlos, the same salesman who'd humiliated Maria the day before, stood at the reception. He recognized her immediately, his face twisting into contempt. Deadly sin. "Look who's back," Carlos sneered, his smile dripping sarcasm. "Did you think today would be different?" Maria stayed calm, But Beyoncé, still incognito, intervened, her voice soft yet unyielding. "We're here to see some cars. We'd like to view your latest models." Carlos laughed, a harsh sound echoing like gluttony, deadly sin, the hunger to devour the vulnerable. "These cars cost more than you'll earn in a lifetime. Maybe try a used lot." Other salesmen, watching from afar, chuckled. Beyoncé, however, remained steady, fueled by patience, inner child element. She knew victory was near. "We'd like to see your most expensive car," Beyoncé said, her serenity unnerving Carlos. He, intoxicated by envy, deadly sin, resentment, toward the courage of these ordinary women, replied with pride, deadly sin. "I don't have time for games. If you're not here to buy, leave." At that moment, righteous anger, inner child element, surged through Beyoncé. She glanced at Maria, visibly uneasy yet trusting. It was time to escalate the plan. "Do you know who I am?" Beyoncé asked, removing her sunglasses. Carlos froze, eyes wide with shock and recognition. "Beyoncé? But how?" His arrogance, deadly sin, crumbled, replaced by fear and shame. Beyoncé locked eyes with him. "You and your colleagues disrespected my friend Maria because she dressed simply. You judged her without knowing who she is or what she's capable of. That's unacceptable." Meanwhile, whispers of "It's Beyoncé" spread like wildfire. Customers and staff pulled out phones, but the singer kept her focus on Carlos and the manager, now scrambling to contain the chaos. The manager stammered, "Ms. Beyoncé, we deeply regret what happened. This isn't who we are." Beyoncé, unshaken, replied, "But it's who your employees are, and that needs to change. The silence in the dealership was so thick you could cut it with a knife." All eyes were locked on Beyoncé, now standing at the center of the room, sunglasses and hat removed. Her globally recognized face radiated authority and indignation. Carlos, the salesman who had humiliated Maria, stood frozen, his arrogance replaced by fear. "Do you know who I am?" Beyoncé asked, her voice thunderous. Carlos stammered, unable to form coherent words. "Beyoncé, I didn't." "No?" Beyoncé cut him off. "No, you didn't. And that's the problem. You and your colleagues judge people by their appearance without knowing who they are or what they represent. Maria here," she gestured to her friend, "is one of the hardest working, most dignified people I know. And you treated her like she was nothing." Maria, finally feeling seen, clasped Beyoncé's hands as tears of relief streamed down her face. She was no longer alone. She had a woman beside her who'd fight tooth and nail for her. The manager rushed over, scrambling to salvage the situation. "Ms. Beyoncé, we deeply regret what happened. This isn't reflective of our dealership's values." Beyoncé fixed him with a gaze blending disappointment and determination. "But it does reflect your employees' actions, and that needs to change." Carlos, still reeling, mumbled, "I never meant to offend anyone." Beyoncé silenced him with a sharp gesture. "Your intentions don't matter. What matters is what you did. And what you did was demean someone who deserves respect." Meanwhile, customers and staff filmed the scene on their phones. News that Beyoncé was at the dealership spread like wildfire, drawing crowds of fans and onlookers, yet Beyoncé remained laser-focused. "Maria, choose any car you want," she said, her smile a blend of generosity and justice. "I'm buying it for you, as thanks for your years of loyalty and hard work." Maria, overwhelmed, pointed to the silver sedan that had been the catalyst for her humiliation. Beyoncé turned to the manager. "Let this be a lesson to everyone here. Treat every customer with equal respect. You never know who's standing in front of you." The air in the dealership was thick with tension, but also with a hope that seemed to rise from the ashes of humiliation. Beyoncé, with her imposing presence, embodied justice, while Maria, by her side, represented the dignity that had been restored. Carlos, the salesman who had humiliated Maria, was visibly shaken. His expression of arrogance had been replaced by one of regret. He tried to apologize, but Beyoncé cut him off with a firm gesture. "Apologies aren't enough. What you did was wrong, and I hope this serves as a lesson, for you and everyone. Here." The manager, scrambling to make amends, offered a generous discount on the vehicle Maria had chosen. Beyoncé, however, refused with a resolve that made it clear this wasn't about money. "It's not about the money. It's about respect and dignity," she declared, finalizing the purchase of the dealership's most expensive car, a luxurious SUV, in Maria's name. Maria, overwhelmed, hugged Beyoncé, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over her. "Thank you, Beyoncé. You don't know how much this means to me." Beyoncé smiled, her gaze blending love and determination. "You deserve this, Maria, and so much more, my friend." Meanwhile, Carlos was fired for his misconduct, and the dealership issued a public apology, pledging to train its staff to prevent similar situations in the future. Before leaving, Beyoncé left a final message for the manager and employees. "I hope this serves as a lesson. Treat every customer with the same respect, because you never know who's on the other side." The news of what happened at the dealership spread like wildfire. The video of Beyoncé defending Maria and exposing the salesman's prejudice went viral within hours. The hashtag #SheRespect4Everyone flooded social media, and people around the world began sharing their own stories of humiliation and overcoming. Beyoncé's action was not just an act of justice, it was a call to conscience for everyone who witnessed the scene. Maria, now the owner of a luxury car, did not see the vehicle as a status symbol, but as a reminder of her restored dignity. She drove through the city's streets, feeling a freedom she had never experienced before. Every time she looked at the steering wheel, she remembered that her courage and resilience had been rewarded. Beyoncé, in turn, used her platform to send a clear message. No one deserves to be judged by their appearance or the clothes they wear. A person's value lies in their character, their story, their humanity. The dealership, pressured by the negative backlash, issued a public apology and announced the implementation of mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all employees. Carlos, the salesman who had humiliated Maria, was fired and, in a later interview, admitted his mistake. "I was arrogant and prejudiced. I've learned a lesson I'll never forget." But the deepest impact was felt among ordinary people who watched the story. Mothers told their children about the importance of treating everyone with respect, regardless of their appearance. Men and women reflected on their own actions and vowed to be more empathetic in the future. The story of Maria and Beyoncé became a symbol of justice and transformation.